if you are a woman? A person of color? Part of the LGBTQIA+ community. An immigrant, or a son or daughter of an immigrant. Have a disability. Now keep all your hands raised. Look around. Most of the people in this room are, just as most of the US population is. The US is more diverse than ever. Since 2020, 43% of the population are minorities. A quarter are first generation and immigrants, like myself and my family. A quarter have disabilities. Now, despite such diversity in this country, there is still a skewed relationship between women and minorities in upper management positions. Looking at white men and women, and men and women of color in entry-level positions and across the C-suite, there's a huge disparity. In entry-level positions, it is fairly even, but the disparity comes in across the C-suite. White men only make up 58% of the population, but account for an overwhelming amount of people in the C-level executive positions. These are especially in Fortune 500 companies where the large, big decisions are being made. Why is that? We all acknowledge this is a problem, but we fail to realize how detrimental it really is. The 2020 Black Lives Matter movement first urged companies to start taking diversity more seriously. They started throwing around terms like DEI or IND, referring to diversity, equity, and inclusion, or inclusion and diversity. They started talking about how much better they were in other companies with diversity statistics, or referring to popular news articles about what they're doing to promote diversity. But some still speculate that these actions may not be genuine. There are still countless anecdotes of women and minorities saying that they feel left out in the workplace. So it begs the question, what is the point of these diverse figures if we aren't fostering an inclusive environment? So where do I come in? As a woman of color, I've spent internship after internship, being the only woman in my teams and my division. In fact, my last internship, I was the only woman and person of color in an entire plant. That meant every day I walked around and didn't see anybody who looked like me. It made me feel more alienated than ever. I distinctly remember different dynamics between me and other POC international coworkers or visitors. I would always be the point of contact because they felt more at ease with someone that they could relate to. Which made sense, but this in itself felt problematic. Though I will say, being the only woman in an entire plant actually had some privileges to it. I had an entire bathrooms to myself, which made for great break times, except for an encounter with a rat at some point, which I won't get into. Aside the point, it became harder and harder for me to explain my point of view on situations. This inspired me to dig deeper and search for a solution and see if there were other statistics to validate what I felt and if other people felt the same way. I was able to dive into a plethora of resources. And here are some takeaways that I found out. Firstly, there's a huge underrepresentation of women and minorities in the STEM field. Now, this isn't surprising, but what was alarming to me is that a female engineer going into the workplace very soon, I heard countless anecdotes of women saying that they had trouble growing or encountered promotional barriers in their positions. Black and Hispanic Americans deal with the same issue. They also highlight not being taken seriously and feeling left out in the workplace as well, to the point of even leaving. Now this brings me to my second point, employee turnover. Employee churn rates in the past decade have been higher than ever, exponentially rising. Half the employees state that their reason for leaving a workplace is because of a toxic work environment. And 3/4 state that because of that toxic environment, it's set by managers and their precedents, and retention is crucial for it. Now, we all know that the onboarding and recruiting process is expensive. In fact, it costs around 2 to 3 times an original employee's salary to replace them. So it isn't beneficial to companies either to be experiencing these large employee churn rates. Now, to my third point. Diversity and efficiency are actually correlated. Looking at this study done here with 6 teams, A through F. Teams A, B, and C were known to have higher cognitive diversity based on factors such as age, gender, background, ethnicity, etc. D, E, and F did not. Team F took 60 minutes to complete a task or project that Team A was able to do in 22 minutes. This just goes to show that having a more cognitively diverse team allows for more creativity, problem solving, innovation, and improves overall decision-making and performance. So after doing a lot more of this research, I realized that it wasn't just minorities or me that were benefiting from inclusivity. It's everyone. It improves team dynamics, productivity, companies overall. Now, I wanted to take this one step further. At my previous internship, I, along with some other interns, took the initiative to raise some points that we saw regarding issues of harassment, like with sexist and racist remarks that we saw around online anonymous forums or just throughout the company culture. We noticed we wanted to bring these up with upper management. And we were able to get into contact with the chief I&D officer of a Fortune 500 company. And being able to do that, we wanted to bring up these pain points and offer tangible solutions. Some of the solutions we brought to his attention were mandating I&D courses as employee training courses, tracking I&D data, hearing about employees' microaggression stories to see what the triggers were, and even just offering more inclusive programs to celebrate other cultures. Now, this got me thinking, what if there was a platform that we could advocate for equity in our regular day-to-day lives? I got together with a group of other first-generation women like myself. And from our experience and our backgrounds and statistics, we knew that women were more likely to be interrupted in the workplace, and immigrants were less likely to have their ideas be heard due to communication barriers. That is how we were able to co-found and create our startup, TetraMeet. TetraMeet is a plugin software that allows for analyzing communication patterns by the number of interruptions in the amount of speaker variants. Now, it does so by tracking these conversation metadata through online virtual meetings, such as BlueJeans, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, etc. It can then offer tangible sources for improvement through recommendations to innate conversation patterns. We were also able to partner with DEI consulting agencies so that we could understand better about their field and offer a tangible solution. Just by acknowledging this problem, we were able to both create this platform and offer it to trained professionals who already saw this existing issue. Now, this isn't to say that you need to create an app or build a startup to solve all the world's diversity problems. Instead, look inwards. What TetraMeet does on a high level is quantify issues of inequity in the workplace, but only through online meetings. We can do this in our everyday lives. I want to offer some action items moving forward. Through high-level culture change and just in our day-to-day behavior. With high-level culture change, we can do this during the recruiting process and while we even have the job. While recruiting, I encourage you all to look beyond just optics. See if a company genuinely cares about its employees. Ask online. Contact the recruiters, contact any connections, or even directly ask your recruiter what that company is doing to approach DEI in the workplace. But even once you've started working, Keep that same energy. Be active in conversations where DEI is being talked about and where important decisions are being made. Hold them accountable. That's what they're there for. Now, we don't have to be doing high-level culture changes all the time. We can do this in our everyday to-day behavior. When you're at work, this means showing empathy to your colleagues. It could just be a, "Hey Bob, hope you're having a great day." Making sure that other people's ideas are being heard, especially if they're a woman or minority. It's just a simple, "Hey Sally, I noticed you had an idea. Do you want to speak up about it?" It's just that simple. And strengthening these social ties actually offers for more productivity overall. And isn't that the end goal of the workplace anyways? To foster productivity with teams, workers, managers, and companies overall. Now, at the beginning of this talk, I asked you all to raise your hands. Raise your hand if you're a woman, a minority, or have a disability. But whether or not you had your hands raised, and whatever your background may be, I encourage you, nay, I challenge you to advocate for inclusivity in your everyday lives for generations to come. Thank you.